So let's get into this video with Dana White.
All right,
let's get into the video. He there was a quote from you in there, and I think it needs.
Yeah. When did that quote occur?
Yeah, see, that's when the time frame is the most important.
Oh, no. Here's the best part of this whole thing.
Let's hear.
Here's a guy that says, "I don't give a fuck about the media." First off, I don't even look at us as media, but that's okay.
I love
it. But I don't give about the media. But then he always complains about clickbait. You know, these media guys and that clickbait bull they do, and it's like, and what the did you and your little team do, man? You little clickbait. I just cracked up, man. I go, you are so pathetic that you actually, first off, you need to have your own little pat on the back. Okay, let me pat you on the back, because you took everything out of context.
Yeah.
You made it to where you were the hero. Congratulations, hero Dana. Oh, let me bow down to you. Unbelievable. My God. When are you going to figure out, you know what? Just don't worry about it. Do your thing. You did great. The UFC had a fantastic year, but let's be honest about everything that occurred. And let's be honest about your video, because your video is clickbait and it's bull and it's out of context. So just ridiculous.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I think the context was definitely key. We were talking in terms of, it was like less than a month later after the March had shut down. They were trying to force the Lamore fight. And we said, look,
Tachi
no one.
Palace.
Yep, at Tachi Palace. Everything was worked out. They literally got a call from, was it Gavin Newsom? And Dianne Feinstein called Warner Brothers and told them, hey, we just got to Disney, and said, hey, we got to dial this down. Okay, let's give it another couple of weeks, and we can keep trying to push this, but we need to dial this down.
All right, but
during that time, you and I had a conversation about the fact that this really wasn't the right time, and we wanted Bellator to keep going too. But at the time, we understood why, because we had nobody knew what was going on yet, just nationwide. But I think, yes, like context is key. The time frame was key. Once he was able to put a show on, we were fucking cheerleaders.
I was 100% supporting.
We were fucking cheerleaders for him.
When he went to Jacksonville, Florida, I was one of his biggest supporters, because he wasn't doing what he was doing with the Tachi Palace and Lamore fight. That was illegal. He was leading himself down into a path that, look, the California State Athletic Commission refused to regulate the show in Lamore at the Tachi Palace. They said, we are not going to do that. We do not want you to have that there. And this is going back to, look, and Dana's part of it. He's done so much to try to get the sport regulated and everything. And he was taking a huge step backwards in trying to put on a show at the Tachi Palace that was not, he can sit there and say whatever he wants to say. He was going to self-regulate the show. That was a huge mistake, and it was a mistake for every official. You see, he put California officials, and we talked about this back then. He put Herb Dean in a horrible spot.
Yeah.
He put, if it was Jason Herzog or Mike Beltran or all these, they can't do that show.
So now their job.
Yes, because they're going to get unlicensed by the California State Athletic Commission. And then once you have that, or they're going to get suspended. And when you get suspended, now when you go to get a license anywhere, and look at when, Jason or Herb or Mike goes to any state, be it Florida, Illinois, they come to Tennessee, they go to Kentucky, where they have to get licensed. And on that form, every time is something of, have you ever been suspended?
Yep.
Now they've got to put it on there, yes, and they've got to explain what happened, why they got suspended, and now they're giving an opportunity to another athletic commission to say, we're not going to use you. It was putting people in a really bad spot. Now, I understand if you're just the fan of the UFC and you want to see fights, I want to see fights too. And I love what the UFC puts out as a product. But when you take huge steps backwards to put on a show, and let's just be flat out honest of why Dana was so intent on putting out shows. It wasn't because he was so into, oh, I want to keep my people employed. He needed to put on those shows so he could get the money from ESPN because he had a 42 fight status contract that he had to meet for him to get his $750 million. Now, by putting on the shows, I love the fact that he kept all the fighters being able to make a living. Fantastic. I love the fact that he put nobody from the staff, nobody got cut. Yep. Those are all beautiful things, big time things. But that all happened from that first show in Jacksonville forward because he was able to put on those shows. And that's what it was all about. That's what we were talking about. I was not the guy who was against him doing it. I was against him trying to do what was basically an illegal show in the state of California that got shut down.
Yeah.
And it got shut down by his bosses. Now, it's kind of funny that all of his little editors and everything with his video, they didn't put Joe Rogan on there. You know why? I wonder why. Let's see. Oh, because it doesn't look good. Because Joe Rogan said what? I am not going to do any commentary. I don't know who they're going to get, but it ain't going to be me.
Yeah.
Okay, because he didn't know what was going on and he was worried about stuff, and that's okay for him to be worried about it. You and I, as we looked at it, we didn't know a lot, but the one person that we did know that really got sick, he almost died, and he was a friend of ours.
Yeah.
And so we're looking at going, we don't know enough about who this is going to affect right now.
And it was right after our show that got canceled. He went home and he went to the
He got it on the way home.
Yeah, he got it on the way home.
Yep.
I think to put it all in the context, we were more talking about the fact that you're putting refs, judges, all the people that work for the commission in jeopardy. They're going to lose their license or lose their job or be suspended for a certain amount of time for one show. There's nothing that like Dana would have had to compensate them for a year's pay, maybe even two, given that now it's lasted a year long. I mean, they would have had to be compensated long enough for them to actually make up all the money that they would have lost during the time that these fights were going on. And Dana wasn't going to be ready to do that. So really you're putting even though you're employing all your fighters, you were not going to be employing the rest of the refs and the judges and everyone else that worked that show behind the scenes. They wouldn't be able to work probably for the whole year, maybe even longer.
They were screwed.
Yeah, they would have been screwed. So, yeah, that being said, I think that's more of the perspective that you and I were talking about. And there was that moment of nobody knew how this thing was, how deadly it was. And let's figure this out first. Because I'm someone that's like, yeah, fucking let's go. Like, just same thing with you. I know you are. Like, it really just comes down to like, just we're surrounded by some of the healthiest fucking people in the world. These athletes, MMA fighters are some of the healthiest fucking people in the world. Maybe not outside of fighting, I don't know. But when they're
or the day of weigh-ins.
Yeah, but the day, I mean, basically from the time that they know that they're always training, that's one thing. They're always taking their supplements. They're always doing their protein. They're always taking care of their body. They're trying to do the best they can. Sure, we get a little ballooned up sometimes and sometimes we don't. But they're still on schedule of taking care of themselves. We just didn't know what it was. And that's the comments that we were talking about, jeopardizing people losing their livelihood for a year after, maybe even longer, losing their license, period. And other states will not employ them. It's not easy to establish yourself in being a ref or a judge or any of those things. And when you finally do, you don't want it ruined for one show.
Yeah.
And
I'm gonna make Dana happy, or I'm going to not make him happy. So now he doesn't want to use me on his shows, or I make him happy. Now the state athletic commissions won't use me on the shows.
Yeah.
You're in a
shitty position,
a horrible catch-22 position.
Yeah. Like I said, you were right. I didn't even think of it in terms of Dana talking about clickbait, and yet this was clickbait. But there was a ton of stuff in there that I thought was kind of funny, because I think there was some talks from Stephen A. and some other, and I you know me, I was kind of like, don't. when I get to like some of the mainstream people that cover MMA, I just want to just fucking strangle them sometimes, like, because they don't understand that the process of which Dana went through to get this sport going what it is. Lorenzo, Dana, and everybody else, even yourself being involved, went through to get this sport on the stage that it's on now. And you are right. It would have set the sport back. And I'm glad that one fight didn't happen. When they went to Jackson, when they went to Florida, I was like, hell yeah, this is time. It's been long enough. Everything seems like it's on track. The curve or whatever the hell you want to call it was on the down, and he was working on it. He was trying to make sure that his fighters are active. People need to remember, I like when he said, sure, he was trying to get his employees paid, our fighters, to make money, because they do. A lot of them do live paycheck to paycheck, depending on where they live. And I understand that. You understand that. I know you do. But at that time, it wasn't the right time. And that's relatively what we were saying.
Yeah. Well, and you take a look at, the content that we walked away from a show that was supposed to be March 13th.
Yep.
When all of this kind of just blew up. The UFC had that show that was scheduled for Brasilia, Brazil on the 14th. Mm-hmm. Now they went through with that show and they went through with it. I understand why, but no crowd. But there was no testing, nothing, none of that was there. Yeah. And that's where Charles Oliveira ended up beating Kevin Lee in the main event. And then you had Dana, he was talking about the Tony Ferguson versus Khabib fight. That fight was scheduled. It was supposed to be in April. And that's the one that he was fighting to put forward. Well, then it got to the point where he knew that fight wasn't going to happen because Khabib, he couldn't get here.
Yeah.
He was being held and there was no way that, not held, but being unable to get his visa or, the ability to get out of his country to come to fight. So that he knew that fight wasn't, but then he was stuck in that, I got to make this happen. And it became, Justin Gaethje against Tony Ferguson, and all of it, every bit of it was bad. And there was big time employees out of the UFC. Look, I was talking to them. I'm saying, you guys can't do this. And they're going, we know it. Yeah. Look, we know we're trying, and I said, you realize what this is going to do? And they go, we know, but he's the boss and we got to try to work around this and make him understand it in a different way. And so that's what it was all about. Once they were going to Jacksonville, and Jacksonville in Florida was open and saying, yes, we're going to have this. We're going to be doing testing, all the stuff that they did from that point. Hey, congratulations. Did an outstanding job.
Yes.
Obviously, nothing was foolproof. Look at how many fights you lost. Mm-hmm. All right. Bellator lost fights, the UFC. And that's the new norm. You're going to lose fights. It's not the UFC's fault. They can't keep everybody healthy. They can't keep someone from not getting, the coronavirus or however you want to, talk about it, COVID-19. But what they can do is try to keep everybody that doesn't get it safe from the person that could possibly give it to them. And that's really what took place. And, they had a lot of cards get kind of smashed based upon health issues. So did Bellator. And all you can do is try to work through it. But I just looked at the entire complexity of what he's doing. And it's like, you sit there and you say, I have plenty of money. You're right. You do.
Yeah.
Okay. You do. And you should be comfortable enough with yourself that you don't have to try to put something out there to pat yourself on the back, because you're kind of following people that you show that you like, in that they always have to take credit. Real leaders, they don't have to take credit.